Okay, welcome to the Monday. Sean, budget review, you want to start that off?
Good morning, Commissioners. Sean Rowe. And today we have IT. So IT is an internal service fund, which means it is funded by all the other county departments. Its goal is to either be net zero on operations side and reserve for future equipment and software replacement. Getting into it, goods and services, we have collected about 1.8 million of a $3.58 million budget. This is the billings to the departments. We have done one half of those billings. The second half will be done in October in aligning with tax collection season. Miscellaneous, we're at 23,400 of 178,000. And other financing sources, this is the transfers in from the reserve fund, is zero currently. We have a budget of 1.63. As the fund balance continues to drop based on our planned reduction of the funds, this will be used at that point in time to fund the operational fund.
Where do we typically like to see that fund balance?
On the operation side, just enough to continue our operations until the property tax, until we build the departments around property tax collection time. So probably about 16%. Most of the expenses happen at the end of the year around software renewals.
Yes.
And then making sure we have funding to pay our staff. So yeah, 16% of operating is probably about right for that fund. Now, when we get into the reserve fund, that's gonna be a different conversation at that point.
And the reserve fund has been reduced already.
That's where this transfer in is gonna come from, that $1.6 million. We have not done that transfer yet. We are, hoping to follow that as cash flows needed for that fund. On the expense side, we have personnel of $1.22 million with a budget of 2.37. Supplies, we're at $597,000 of 2.7 million. This is going to be a lot of our softwares, minor equipment, and miscellaneous supplies. And then our services are at 334,000 of 734,000. It's going to include our professional contracts, telephone, internet, and the internal service billings to this department. The current cash balance of this fund is $1.2 million. So as you can see, the supplies have not been expended yet. Most of the software, the large purchases, that's about $2 million of this list, are still to come usually in the latter half of the year. And I think we'll be discussing some of those later today. The next fund is the technology reserve account. This is where we reserve for our capital expenditures. We have miscellaneous revenue of 104,000. We budgeted 175. This is our interest earnings during the year. And then in prior years, we've had other financing sources where we have transferred into this fund. This year, we are transferring out of it. And on the expense side, we have not expended anything to date. We have budgeted $60,000 in supplies, 605 in capital, and then the transfer to the operating fund of $1.6 million. Current cash balance is $4.8 million.
Where did this fund get its balance from?
This is a ongoing reserve paid into by the departments in fiscal years 23 and 22, excuse me, fiscal year 23 and 24, $2 million annually was transferred into this fund. And that's where the fund balance came from. We have future expenditures for servers, possibly cloud-based in the future, replacing our telephone systems, replacing, help me out here with some of these items here.
Some of the backup systems like the SAN and things of that nature, but primarily servers.
And as we get into the budget season and talk about the allocation, we'll be in full detail of what those reserves are looking like and anticipated replacement years and anticipated reserves for those replacements.
So those funds were transferred in here in anticipation of future upgrades, basically,
Mhm.
from where?
They were transferred from the 50201, the operations fund. Those funds are collected from every county department during the allocation.
Okay.
Are we on a set rotation, like a 5-year or 7-year, or is it just on equipment failure?
So the current equipment that we have right now, it was purchased back in 2020. So
Okay.
it's more than 6 years old.
So about it. All right.
Would it be fair to say almost all of our equipment's at end of life?
For servers, yes.
What was your question?
If all of our equipment was close to end of life.
And you said our servers are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it for BMRs today.
Okay.
That was easy.
Thank you.
Like I say, we can move right into agenda item. And since we already got you at the table, I guess.
You can move here. Come up here, just in case. Questions about public records? First of all, I want to say good morning, Commissioners. Mac McCoy, Director of IT. So today I'm presenting 4 technology funding requests. For each request, I will briefly cover why it's needed, the risk of not proceeding, the cost, and my recommendations. So the first one on the agenda is the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, which is our digital back office. This is basically the why. Let's talk about that. This is to maintain the county's core Microsoft productivity, collaboration, security, identity, and compliance. So the risk of not renewing, the county faces high risk involving operational continuity, licensing, compliance, security, and public records capability. And the cost for a 3-year total is 1.3 million, and that's including the council taxes. So what I'm requesting is a full Microsoft agreement approval, including the Purview add-on, which I'm gonna talk about a little bit more, and talk about some of the options with that. Are there any questions so far?
Do we currently have, we currently do not have a Microsoft agreement? Or
We do currently have one.
We're wanting to renew it.
Yes, it's
Okay.
in it's in this last year of a 3rd year right
Okay.
now.
How much did they up it, Mac? Do you,
So so the price went up, they went up 8.1%.
8.1? Okay.
Yes. So including that would be the cost of the Purview. That's where the additional unfunded cost would be, which is roughly 80,000 per year over 3 years.
Okay.
So that's the crux of this particular request here is the Purview add-on. So we have some options here that I wanted to go kind of cover.
Sure.
So the panel would have some type of informed decision. So option 1 is to delay Teams chat deployment and remove the request for Purview add-on. So that would actually remove any risk that we would have in terms of having this particular product by deploying Teams chat. So Teams chat is basically where you would have to have the public records ability for retention and public records capture. Option 2, key purview add-on and deploy Teams chat, which is that really mitigates the risk, but the problem here is that there's a cost, unfunded cost that goes with option 2, which is the purview add-on. So let me explain a little bit more about what that purview add-on really, what happened there. Microsoft last year decided to change their model, and they changed some of the naming for purview. And so when they changed that model, they added on additional licensing fees for those models, which was unforeseen for most of us. So they're unforgiving when it comes to cost. So I think we know that. Option 3, we can use the existing functionality of purview. We have that, but it's just standard. It doesn't provide you the capability for the retention and the records that you need to manage. So that's why you have the request for the purview add-on. I wouldn't recommend this model. I wouldn't recommend that option because it does put you at a high risk, right? With the current way we have purview set up. So what that means is we have G3, which is the government tier version of purview. And then you have G5, which is the higher tier of purview, which has all the capability to manage public records from end to end. So we don't currently have that. So instead of paying that additional 500,000 cost for the G5, the workaround is to get the purview add-on, which is much less, which is it's still expensive, 243,000. It's not 500,000. So option 4. Let's talk about option 4. So option 4 is deploy Teams chat and the purview add-on as a pilot to a single department. Although that will work, I do see some issues there with that because at some point you would still have to pay the full cost for the purview add-on. So those are your options. I don't know if that was clear enough, but those are your options for the Microsoft 365. So your choice is to deploy Teams chat, get the purview add-on, or delay the deployment for Teams chat and not get the purview add-on. So those are the choices.
What's the benefit to Teams chat? Outside of Zoom or something that we're already using?
Well, here's the thing, it's collaboration. It's basically where people can communicate faster and better and more. That is the crux of it. And most counties do have Teams chat. I think the way that Microsoft 365 was set up previously from the previous years was not set up correctly. So that's why we're in a position where we're at right now.
So the add-on is so that we have adequate records control.
Right. And so
If we deploy Teams chat.
right. So let me explain that a little bit further so it'll be a little bit clearer. So what Microsoft did was, so for the person that's doing the search, you have to have a license. And so what Microsoft did last year, they said, okay, so the person that's being searched need a license as well. So that's what they did. They're basically double dipping. That's how they get us on this additional cost.
How many people do we have using Teams chat right now?
Excuse me?
How many people do we have using Teams chat right
We
now?
have some department, not really, not a lot. The IT department is using it. We're using it because we're doing the pilot testing with it. I know that we had a few other people that's using it, like the public records. You might have a couple of departments that have it just to see what's going on there, just to test it out, but it's not deployed countywide.
So the issue is if it is deployed countywide, that creates a record issue.
Yes.
Yeah, and everybody's inbox has to be searched, so everybody needs those licenses.
A little bit louder, I can't
Say
hear
that
that
again.
So for me to search, be able to search whoever's inbox for a Teams chat record, they also have to have that license, which is what Mac was explaining. Like I cannot have that license and that person I'm searching not have that license, so.
So if Mac and I are in a chat, we both have to have a license, is what you're saying? If you have to search us?
Yeah,
Wow.
It's creative financing by Microsoft, isn't it?
That's Microsoft at its best.
And I think just an important thing that I would like to know is that most counties do have Microsoft Teams chats, but also most counties have chosen to keep those records forever. I think we've taken like a proactive approach to not keep everything forever when we deploy it. So I think that's even more so why buying this technology is important to manage those records in there.
So how does it handle that? Do you set up parameters for, I mean, or is there parameters in it that says if it's this type of thing, I know it knows to erase it after 7 years or 5 years or 24 months or whatever, or is that still a manual thing where you have to go in?
So from my understanding, yeah, you set up retention rules on the back end and we're actually just keeping them for 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those types of records, there's like no statute of limitations on them?
Yeah, because we will be training employees to use those communications for transitory purposes. So they need to be creating records in there that do not have a purpose to be retained for longer periods of time so that they'll be set up to be destroyed after 90 days. Yeah.
So the system will automatically purge them after, when a record becomes over 90 days, it
Yes.
automatically purges. It's not something you have to physically go in and monitor.
Yeah, it's automatic.
And so what's the added cost to do this?
It's $80,000 per year for 3 years,
$80,000 per year
for 3 years.
for 3 years.
So roughly, 220 some thousand, 224,000 with tax, 244,000.
And so what do we lose if we don't do this? What do we have for risk?
Well, so if it's time sensitive and for a public records request and you don't have this in place, then whatever the penalty is behind that, I mean, I think the risk of not doing it is higher than the risk of doing it. In other
If we
words,
deploy chat though, right?
if you deploy Teams chat.
Yeah, if we
now,
don't deploy it, then there is no risk.
then it goes away. That's your option. That's really your option one, really, is you delay the Teams chat deployment and don't get the purview add-on. So now you don't have the cost and you don't have the risk.
You know,
This is a tough one. It really is a tough one too.
when my old line of work instituted Microsoft Teams and we had that, you know, take the coast branches. I had 5 branches down on the coast. I could run that through a chat and I could put everybody on there and you could talk, where before we would have to like use Zoom or something like that and bring them in. So would this replace some of that? I mean, would there be cost savings on the side, maybe not have to utilize Zoom as much?
I don't see a cost savings. For
Okay.
example, if you're talking about like courts, they're going to use Zoom. So there's really no cost saver. And if you try to go buy another product, what Microsoft has effectively done is put a blocking wall in front of that. In other words, you have to use their API in order to use Team Chat that way to
Gotcha.
actually do a search. So for example, if you're using a GovQA, FOIA, or Next Request, there's a requirement around using their API.
I'm in favor of delaying the Teams chat. I don't think we need it and we don't need to spend the money.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know where we got the $80,000.
So move on to the next one. Yes? No? Okay. All right. So the next request is the CrowdStrike Falcon. So CrowdStrike Falcon is really an agent that is deployed across the servers and workstations for threat protection. And so we got to get that one. That's already been deployed. It's just a renewal. And this is part of the cybersecurity resilience that's been put in place as of the last 12 months. So we want to move forward with that one.
I don't have a problem with that. You might get, because that Falcon is getting a lot of play here lately. You might hear something about it tomorrow, but it's a different animal than the cameras.
Well, the risk of not doing this one is, the county would lose security visibility and its ability to rapidly detect and contain threats.
Yeah.
So we definitely, I don't know if you really don't have much of an option with that one. That one you have to
Yeah.
actually,
And we're already budgeted for this one, Mac?
excuse me?
This one's already budgeted for?
Yes, this one is budgeted for.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next one is the Oracle PeopleSoft licensing. So with this one here, it is 260,000 over 2 years. I was able to negotiate getting the third year removed for PeopleSoft licensing. So with this one, I'm requesting approval for the 2 years. And so this one is supposed to take effect the 1st of September.
Don't we have any choice? We're not ready to move off PeopleSoft, right? You know?
Yeah, it's not really,
So,
not really much of a choice there with that one. That one has been, with the PeopleSoft, it's been a little difficult trying to navigate through all those different layers
yeah,
with that. So the next one is the BGSF.
Well, this one, PeopleSoft was already budgeted for also, correct?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Are we making any attempts, Mac, to get away from PeopleSoft?
Well, so we've had a lot of meetings here to talk about that and brainstorm through a lot of that. And so what we came down with, or the outcome of that, is we need to bring in some vendors and do some demos to really take a look at what we can potentially do and kind of lock down what that cost is. There's been a lot of talk around the cost, but we really need to land on what that really is and what that look like. And because we have to just move forward with the licensing, that gives us a little bit of time to kind of devise a plan around the deployment or the migration of something different.
Is the version of PeopleSoft that we have, is it an antiquated version? Is it up to date? I mean, where is it as far as technological advancements with regards to the software? Are we in the Stone Ages with it, or are we where everybody else is?
I'd say the platform is kind of the Stone Age, but the version that we're going to, which is a deployment that's supposed to happen at the end of the month here, will put us at the most current version of PeopleSoft. So that project has been ongoing and it's coming to its last leg to be wrapped up.
it's the platform that's the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Does it not play well with other platforms?
It's not that it doesn't play well with other platforms, it's just that it's so customized that it causes some of the departments some issues. Which would lead into the next request here, which is the BGSF to inspire PeopleSoft managed service. This is our managed service provider. This is a continuation to actually augment and continue the operational continuity of PeopleSoft operations. And so with this one, it's 12 months and it's 243,000 for the 12 months. So with these, just so you know, with the managed service provider, this is a team of people that's actually working these issues for us. And they've been doing a good job over the last 6 or 7 months. So I think this is a good move. Now, the risk of not doing it is, of course, we wouldn't have the resources because we don't have the county resources to actually perform this work. So there's the risk that you're dealing with. You'll have delays with request and operational issues.
Yeah.
And is that because of the retirement that you had? The lady that was in charge of it is no longer with us?
Yes, that is correct.
So this is not budgeted for.
This is not budgeted for.
We don't have the expertise on site though,
No, we do not.
at this point in time.
No, if you look
And-
at, if you make the assessment on the skill set, I mean, we have staff that can do part of the work, but we don't have the
Yeah.
specific skill sets to sustain and maintain the operations that we need to actually continue with PeopleSoft as is.
Yeah. And PeopleSoft touches so many parts of the county. Yeah.
So in this is a 1-year contract.
It is a 1-year contract.
Are we gonna be, do we have anybody on staff that we're trying to, that they'll be training or bringing up to par so that we don't have to, will this be an ongoing thing for the 3-year contract with PeopleSoft? Or are we
That
bringing
is
somebody?
that is part of the conversation, Steve. You know, one of the things that I talked about with the departments, such as the auditor and the treasurer, is what does this look like in terms of having county staff do this work? So part of that is the ramp up time for staff, right? And also, you know, I had this idea to actually hire for 2 county staff as well. So a lot of that stuff is in the mix, but we need to land on really what direction are we actually going with PeopleSoft and migrating to something else. I think we need to kind of strategically put that in place and then understand what that is, right?
And this is, PeopleSoft is what pays people, right? That's the
It's the
what we use, the
payroll,
payroll, paycheck
HR
system.
benefits,
Yeah,
things of that nature.
people won't be happy if that system's not working.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy if I'm not getting.
Probably not.
So those are the 4 items that I have. The total cost is staggering. It's 1.9 million, but that's what the cost is.
Yeah. IT. The one question I would have for you, Mac, on 7, delaying that 80 per year, that 240. So does that change this 1.3 or is that?
Yeah, it does change it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it does reduce it.
So the only thing that you presented to us that is not budgeted is the PeopleSoft contract with the team that that's working.
BGSF.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's it.
if you take off the purview, yeah.
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 Sean, you can help us find $250,000?
For specifically the BGSF, we have put into 2027's budget. It is a placeholder for now, as we discuss the allocation in the future. With some of the staff savings that has come into IT over the last year with unfilled positions, I would recommend doing this, as hiring 2 positions that had previously would be more expensive than this.
Oh, then this contract it would be?
Yeah, having bodies would probably be more than that 225, I'm guessing.
Mhm. Yeah, you'd be likely over 3 if we went with the previous roles.
Yeah.
I don't know how we moved to approve it, but I'm good with all of them except for the chat teams.
Yeah. Only because I've worked, I know the benefits of the chat. And so hopefully down the line, if things improve, I think that needs to be part of it. I'm not going to haggle that, sitting where we're currently sitting, that gets delayed, but, it can have some benefits and
Okay.
okay. Finance.
checking the time, making sure we're still good. Alrighty, for tomorrow's agenda, we have quite a few items on here. Item 1 is the notice for budget workshops and public hearings for the remainder of the 27 budget cycle. The key dates we have to advertise for are going to be for both the November and December public hearings for the levies and the budget as well, approval. We've done it early enough so that there is time for those to be tabled for a week and come back and still meet our deadlines. Item number 2 is a call for public hearing and ordinance. This is in regards to the sales tax we discussed earlier, establishing the date at September 1 at 9:45 to have a discussion on that item. Under resolutions, we have a resolution, excuse me, rescinding resolution 08-025. This is the Savings Incentive Program. This is a policy we've had in place since I believe it was 2004 or excuse me, 2008. The last time that this policy was used was 2012. And we'd recommend rescinding this policy. Number 6.
What did it allow us to do? Or,
So it,
Sorry.
yeah. The policy made it so that any unspent funds from prior year would be reallocated back to the departments in the current year at a varying rate for varying uses. In our current condition, I would recommend rescinding this.
we haven't utilized it since 2012, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the second one is Resolution 04-163. This was the cumulative reserve fund policy. We dissolved the cumulative fund, I believe, a year and a half ago. So this is just cleaning up that policy as well, a full rescinding of that. And then we have a public hearing at 9:30 for the scheduled budget amendment. Most of these items are going to be cleaning up items that have been taken care of. For example, when we approve overlap on employees, is adding capacity for those. Settlement of certain contracts would be on here. For example, the jail sergeant's contract, adding in that retro and the remainder of the year on that. Any promotions from specific department employees. We have the PFD entry in here for the debt service on the new bond. You'll see that both in the general fund partially and on the special revenues. And then we have some movements around between the health department. They have nice one sheet on that we can send. And that's pretty much it. You know, elections is recognizing some grants they've received and appropriate expenditures. Not as exciting as the last one.
I go back to 2, and it's just a question. You may not even have the answer. It's just out of curiosity. You know where they're at with their application process?
Yes, that was approved, and that is why we have called for the public hearing on this.
And it gives them access to grant programs?
It does as well. I'm not sure if
Does those grant programs can they involve like Falcon cameras and stuff like that?
I'm unaware. I know that Troy has been working on a grant application for that.
When I talked to Troy, his comment was he's applying for every grant he can get through it.
It looks like Troy's in the chat there.
Oh, good.
We're going to have some discussion on those? Or maybe I'll just have some discussion on those. Okay.
I've heard nothing on flock cameras
No.
being discussed.
Okay. Great.
He does say he's
Not
not
request-
requesting.
Troy just said he's not requesting plot cameras. the chat.
And those are all of our items for tomorrow. If there's anything like additional follow-up on, please let me know. Thank you.
Public Works.
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. Public Works has a light agenda for tomorrow. We only have one item, and it's the call for public hearing for an establishment of a no parking zone on Kalama River Road near milepost 6.0. This is that area we have discussed before where they have stopped delivering mail in some instances because of sight distance, because there's been vehicles parked on this area. So we'll be bringing that forth for a public hearing with some photographs and layout of the site.
That's on September 1st.
Yes, that's on September 1st. We're going to have an exciting day on September 1st. I'm sure my item will be the most controversial on the list.
We got a lot on September. Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
building planning.
Yeah. Good morning, Commissioners. Tracy Jackson, Building and Planning. Adam's here to talk about the critical areas ordinance that you have on the agenda tomorrow. It's a public hearing. It was set over from a couple weeks ago. We wanted to get planning commissioners, the planning commission approval or the recommendation going forward. So I'll let him take it, but it happened last week.
That's right. Thank you. Adam Trimble, Planning Manager. So yeah, for tomorrow, we are going to ask the board to continue the public hearing in consideration of this update to our critical areas ordinance. So you will have the opportunity to hear from the public and hold your own public hearing. In your agenda, we provided the ordinance that would adopt the recommendation from the Planning Commission. So we did have a majority of the Planning Commission members present recommend adoption. We had two dissenters, and they in the discussion they put forward opposition to the idea that the buffers need to increase. That the regulations should change. There was in a prior meeting proposals that would retain our current buffers, right, as an amendment. In discussion of that idea, we did compare the two versions, the existing and the proposed. There's not a huge change in buffers at the lower level of quality for wetlands. And what that means for our county is, there won't be a huge change for most folks who have a wet area on their property. And in those areas where we have those big pristine wetlands, they're often around our rivers of the state, our big waters of the state that we have here. And those areas for the large part aren't going to be governed by the updated ordinance. They're going to continue to be governed by our current ordinance because they're in the shoreline. And so a quirk of this update is that we're going to update environmental rules for the county, but we're not going to update our shoreline ordinance, which regulates all the areas around the rivers and streams where you find those big pristine wetlands. So they'll get a pass from these new rules going forward. So all that to say, we did have a pretty robust discussion with the Planning Commission. We got to the point where we had presented our final draft ordinance. We integrated a few more comments from stakeholders like the ports to make sure that this is the Cowlitz County way of doing critical areas regulations. And what you have in front of you is an ordinance that has withstood the test of state agency reviews, It is the advice of our expert consultants who have done this for over 20 different jurisdictions. And so I'll say, no comment was ignored. We have a strategy that we took with this ordinance, which is we have a code that can pass muster. It will pass scrutiny. And it does that the Cowlitz County way by including these 14 different options for property owners to make use of their property. And so that includes things like exemptions, where we had some enhancements to make sure the exemptions work for everybody that needs to, just kind of a common sense approach. We had a number of enhancements, including this reasonable use concept, where if regulations increase, our local ordinance is going to contain a track where you can walk us through where these regulations make it infeasible to do what you need to do to use your property. And at an administrative level, we can consider all of that and approve a path forward that, does the best that is possible and makes development feasible. We also have added a variance provision for those projects where the standards are going to prevent development without some adjustment. And so we have now an avenue where you can make that case and you can make that justification for why your project should be allowed to vary, for what reason, and that give and take can occur instead of just a black and white no or yes. So with these 14 and other provisions that we have in this update, I think we have an ordinance that will be useful and usable by the members of the public, by those experts. We also included in the ordinance a delayed effective date. So a 30-day effective date is going to give our community members, our developers, our property owners a heads up that this is coming. It's going to give them a chance to complete projects that are about to be turned in, to get vested with projects that are entirely developed under this current framework. So I want to point that out, that we did consider the impact of this vote and wanted to make sure that we gave everybody a chance to submit what they had in the works already. And our department can, raise the alarm and say, hey, there's a change coming. We recommend you submit your applications. So with that, tomorrow we will conclude the public hearing and you'll have the opportunity to vote on this update. Be happy to answer any questions you have about the agenda item or the update itself.
Is there a deadline this has to be done by?
Yeah, it needs to be completed by the end of this year.
And it's a part of our comp plan update as well that has to be done by the end of the year. So we're running down on the clock, so.
Yeah.
And I commend our consultant and Adam and his staff. Everything in this conclusion, these 14 exemptions are kind of the Cowlitz County way. We haven't taken the state mandate stuff. We've used the best available science. We've reduced the numbers and then we've given them 14 other options to make their properties developable and so they can do what they want. So we're really trying to find the best gray area we can with the regulations coming down from the state and making it our way. So these are kind of in addition to what the science says.
And if we don't make the deadline, what's the state do? They send us all kinds of nasty letters.
Yeah,
I understand in 2016, isn't that the year we just decided to stay with what we have? We didn't make any changes. Did the state come after us?
2016 was a significant update. We had Lisa Hendrickson, who was the planning manager at the time, here in the audience for this round. And she shared some of that perspective with the Planning Commission and us about that update process and the kind of the stances that the county had to take at that time to hold what was possible in terms of that update. But this firm, Watershed Company, did the 2016 update for us. And now they're working with us again. So they know us really well. I'm really confident in that part of this, that they understand the interests of this county. And when they're recommending these things, it's with that in mind.
I keep, at least what I'm hearing, and I can ask all this stuff tomorrow if you don't want to spend your time today, but that it's really not going to have any significant impact. So then I'm wondering, why are we even doing it? I mean, why are we going through this process if we're,
Yeah, the
it,
pitch that I'm making is that the update does include some changes to the regulations, but that we're trying to mitigate that. We're trying to make sure that there's avenues for development. But there are buffer increases involved in this. That's what the mandate is from Olympia. A caveat to that, and we've heard a lot about the impacts to forestry here in this room and in the media and around the state. A caveat is that in general, a lot of people are going to continue to harvest under Department of Natural Resources rules, and that this update isn't going to affect those people. Those small landowners, those large forest owners, they're going to continue to be able to harvest under DNR rules. And so what you're voting on tomorrow isn't going to affect them or their buffers. And even if they do decide later to develop, we have various measures where you can do a harvest under state DNR rules and then choose an acre or an area on your property that is to be developed. And that's when this ordinance would come to apply, but only to that acre. So I do want to make that important caveat because we're going to continue to hear about, how changes at the state level affect forestry, which affect all of us here.
yeah. State continues with mandates and rules of what I would term as taking of people's property and we're just expected to comply with it. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that.
Yeah, we just were informed of a county, Skagit County, that was unsuccessful in a court challenge. So they went through the adoption process and then were challenged in court. The opinion was published and it showed that the interest groups that were challenging the county were able to get a certain rule the county preferred overturned. And instead, what was imposed was the state recommended rule, the agency rule. The by the book standard that the agency wants to be adopted. And we don't want to see that happen here. The county, Skagit County, was found that they didn't have the adequate justification for adopting the buffers that they adopted. And, just kind of a unfortunate thing for them.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do that can guarantee that these special interest groups won't come out and come after you for any number of reasons. We see it on the river all the time.
Did I understand, you said this won't affect large or small timber companies now? It's not gonna change anything for them?
Yeah, so the Department of Natural Resources regulates those timber harvests. They have their own set of rules. Right now, I believe it's a 15-foot buffer that they apply, and that's with the assumption it's going to be replanted in trees. It'll remain forest land. So those small landowners, large landowners, they'll continue to be able to harvest under DNR rules. This ordinance and your vote tomorrow will not affect that process.
So is the reason that it's not making much of a change or an impact on our citizens is because of the options that you came up to mitigate what the state code is?
That's the approach we've taken. We've got an ordinance that will withstand scrutiny because it does adopt close to or on a prescriptive approach the agency's best available science recommendations. And within it, we provide a path, numerous paths, 14 different ways in which you can make use of your property when you encounter infeasibility, when the regulations make it difficult or too expensive to get reasonable use.
So Adam will present something like this tomorrow and pretty much have this discussion with the board and let the public weigh in. And we've invited Planning Commission, we've invited BPAC, we've invited everybody and anybody who's been a commenter that, the board is hearing this tomorrow. So we hope they'll come and partake and hopefully we'll get an approval.
What was BPAC's take?
They came in here and did the joint workshop with you guys time flies, in May. And, we had good discussion. But that's when Planning Commission was in here with them and with the board. Anyone who was available on BPAC. A few have been attending the Planning Commission meetings. They've been interested, but no one wants regulation, We're just here to make it the county way and not the forced way. So we have that. I have two additional miscellaneouses. We can wait till the end. I know you have a full agenda this morning. So we have a fire update and just a grant to talk about.
Thanks, Adam.
Our first executive session is at 10. Yeah, that's what so we got a couple minutes we can take. Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Jim Hill, for City Council, is this? Well, I don't see. Was he on it before? So it's like a renewal, or? I ask you because, sorry.
We have another city.
So you've had another one from Kelso apply too? No. Okay.
So on the SWAC board, both large cities have their own independent spot, and usually the city submits their applicant. And I believe Jim has been on there historically. And before that,
For
think it
Kelso?
was- Yeah,
Yeah.
Keenan before that, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. That's what Kelso wants.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
pick your poison.
Yeah.
Was Adam the one that Kalama submitted?
Tracy, can you fit your two miscellaneous before 10? Or try?
Commissioner Dahl, I was just we had got approval from the board for $75,000 for the critical areas ordinance grant, the one that we have hopefully finishing tomorrow. We got the first half last year and the second half comes out. It should be hitting your mailbox inbox for electronic signature on the remaining. It's for $25,793 of that 75,000. So that is the second half of the state that we were given.
Okay.
They reduced it by
What'd you say, 25?
$25,793. And we had prior approval. This is to pay for the consultant.
So you're thinking, I'll see, I may have something. in my
Commerce said
inbox.
last week that they were going to send it out. They had a few additional, I kind of
Okay.
visually looked at the language. It looked okay to me. The amount was correct. So I said, please send it to them, but I don't know if they have or not. And I said, you were out until Monday. So
Okay.
hopefully it'll be hitting your mailbox. If it doesn't, let me know and I will.
But this is, just to clarify, this is part of something we've already approved.
You approved it actually over a year ago. Yes.
Okay. I'll look for it.
And we received the first 50,000 prior.
Okay.
And then Mike will talk about fire danger.
Morning, Mike Wilson, building official, but I'm speaking this morning as the fire marshal. So, as you're aware, county enacted its annual burn ban on the 15th of July. Subsequent to that, the governor's office has declared a state of emergency, which I'm sure we're August 1st, statewide burn ban. Now, the burn ban is established by the state, does not exceed the limitations we set forth in our annual burn ban. Now, Lewis County and Skamania County on the 3rd and the 4th each expanded their burn ban to include prohibition of campfires. I met with the fire chiefs last Wednesday to discuss this and the possibility of us making an expansion of the burn ban. At that time, the consensus was that it was not necessary. Lewis County and Skamania County, they are to the east, and their concern, especially in Lewis County, after talking with them, is the conditions in the eastern part of the county. Therefore, countywide, that's the way it lands. Skamania County obviously is equally to the east as the eastern part of Lewis. Therefore, there are concerns there. So in speaking with the chiefs, they said the conditions are such that it's probably not necessary here. I offered that we would, under the authority of our campground ordinances, make inspection of campfire structures such as rings and masonry circles and so forth that accommodate campfires to be certain that they're in compliance with the fire code and the campsite ordinances. That was received well. They thought it was a good idea. So we're going to pursue that, send notification to the campgrounds and let them know that through the remainder of the fire season, we will make inspections as we have resources available. And that is if conditions do not change. Meeting later this week with DNR to have understanding what their position is on it. And if they feel that conditions are such that, you know, expanded burn ban is necessary. I have found that private campgrounds have voluntarily prohibited campfires, but it's a matter of whether or not we as the authority having jurisdiction are going to impose that. So at this point, we don't believe it's necessary, and we will follow that process, that practice until otherwise. So that's it. Any questions?
Sounds good.
Make
All right.
sense.
Thank you.
Okay, we're almost 10, so we can head back in. We got an executive session, potential litigation. Did they give you any time frame on that, Purvey? Jason, how long do you think on that, huh? Any idea? Okay. Okay, let's take care of that. Thank you. Okay, back for executive session. No decisions rendered. Building planning, we have one here, potential litigation. How? Time? 10 minutes? Okay, we'll adjourn to potential litigation, 10 minutes.
Herbie. The board is extending the executive session an additional 5 minutes until 10:34 a.m.
Okay, we got that one. Okay, back from executive session, no decisions rendered. I see we have one more with HR. Performance of a public employee? How long? 10 minutes? Okay, let's take care of that.
Board is extending the executive session an additional 5 minutes until 10:50 a.m. Board is extending the executive session an additional 5 minutes until 10:55 a.m. The board is extending the executive session an additional 5 minutes until 11 a.m. Is extending the executive session an additional 5 minutes until 11:05 a.m.
Okay, back from executive session, no decisions rendered. Jessica, I'll turn it over to you.
Right, I have one request today. The request is to do an 8% increase on top of our current jail captains' salaries. They're all at top step, so this would just be applied to their top step and 8%. And this is in relation to, placing them above the jail sergeants.
Okay. No good with that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, commissioners.
Scott, thank you for your patience.
Well, I guess we'll see here.
Yeah.
To get to the screen sharing. Bill? Cool. Good morning, Commissioners. I just wanted to first start out and say happy National Emergency Management Awareness Month. So that's set for this month. I've been asked to come in and kind of just do a little workshop session, talk about who we are, what we do, the resilient communities, and talking about Nippon Dynawave. And then we had a emergency management budget amendment request, and then to discuss the position of community coordinator and what they do, and if we need to fill that position moving forward. So I'm going to move fast through this stuff. If there is any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, we'll move forward. Department of Emergency Management came out of the civil defense post World War II and post the Cold War. We move through the main tenets, which is the preparation, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. We build on comprehensive planning, risk-based decision-making, and hold community collaboration. So that's really the key pieces that we push through. People always ask what our legal framework and why we do what we do. At the federal level, we are organized under Title 44 of the U.S. Code. And that also formed FEMA, which we also operate under the Federal Emergency Management Act, and the Stafford Act, which is the funding arm of that. We also operate under Presidential Policy Directive number 8, which sets ICS and the standards for our response. At the state level, we operate under RCW 3852 and WAC 118. Those specifically require every political subdivision to have emergency management and participate in the state programs. At the local level, we operate under a interlocal agreement for all the cities and the counties, and we work together. So what we do is planning is one of the key pieces. Slideshow's not coming up correctly. Anyways, we operate basically under three main tenets: planning, training, and community outreach are the three main tenets that we operate on. So in the planning section, there's a list of plans that we have to operate under. We're required by not only state and federal law, threats, hazards, identifications, the comprehensive emergency plan, which is, we'll talk about that a little bit later. You guys have that draft plan ready for approval. We also operate under emergency planning for water systems. We operate under the flood planning, which you guys passed last year. We operate under many plans that are, again, required by the state to move us forward. Again, those are required plans that the state says that we must participate in.
Slideshow is not running well. Beautiful. You gotta love technology.
Great when it works.
It's great when it works and it doesn't. There we go. Okay, so planning, training, exercise and outreach, what we talked about. Go ahead and do the next slide. Burby, thank you. So again, we talked about the required planning. These are some of the plannings that we do. The ones that I didn't mention were the hazard mitigation plan, which is required by federal law, the state. Wow, that's doing crazy stuff today. The state emergency or county emergency preparedness, that's SEPA plan, that's required by state EMD. Hazard Material Response Community Right to Know Act, or called EPCRA. That's required by RCW, also by WAC. Again, flood planning we talked about. And then the continuity of operations, or the COOP, or the continuity of government plans. And those are all required by presidential policy directive. Next slide, please. Additional planning, those are some of the ones that are on the board. This is just a little representation of some of the stuff that we do. Some of the stuff you may be familiar with is some of the mapping of the Cowlitz River, the Southwest Washington Healthcare Alliance, the planning for water systems, a lot of those different pieces. And again, trying to move quickly through this in respect of everybody's time, but these are the other pieces that you don't see that go on behind the scenes. Go ahead, next slide. So I want to kind of highlight one of the pieces that came up, especially in the discussion about the Nippon Dynawave packaging response. One of the things that we're responsible for is the local emergency planning committee. Again, that's required by RCW and federal statutes. It may look like it's a fairly light lift, but it's actually not. It consists of all the two-tier reporters in Cowlitz County. So anybody that maintains hazardous materials across the county, we stay in constant communication with. We have 3 general meetings per year and 1 membership meeting. We do 1 tabletop exercise with the Emergency Support Function 10 to review the plan and to operate on the plan in support of Emergency Management Division. And then we also participate in the Emergency Management, the State Planning Committee, or the CERC, that requires us to attend multiple meetings and participate with that. Next slide. The other piece that we do, which is a critical piece, is the public alert and warning. So we handle all of the integrated iPod systems, the wireless alerts that go to your cell phones, and the emergency alert systems through TV, radio, satellite. You probably remember those ones, the beep, 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 if this had been an actual emergency that come on. We manage the HyperReach, which is our opt-in county system, so we can directly communicate with our county participants. You have a slip on your table. That's one of the big pieces that we do in our community outreach, is get people signed up for that system so we can communicate directly with them. And then we handle social media, which we also use for community alerting. Facebook is our primary social media that we use, and that was based off of several studies that were conducted several years ago in what media most county population uses, and social media, Facebook by far is the social media that we see used across the county. Next slide, please. So one of the big key pieces that we build is, or work on, is building resilient communities. What this is we're trying to train citizens to not need our services in large scale events. And this is done through planning, organization, equipping, training, and exercising. We spent the last several years working in the Riderwood community to build them into a resilient community. They are very prepared. They have an evacuation plan. They have a plan for their community, and we're currently working in the Toutle River Valley for building the resilient community focus. Next slide, please. So again, it just takes a big lift for this. It may look like it's a really easy lift, but like I've said, we've been in Riderwood for over 2 years working on lots of these pieces to build them into a resilient community. Next slide, please. We also do regional partnerships and grant support. So we're very active in emergency performance grant that actually pays for part of our personnel currently pays. And then the other part is through Homeland Security Region 4. And we work with all of our partners. This is just an example. 3 years ago, we were able to secure almost $90,000 for the city of Longview in extreme weather grant process. So they were able to retrofit the McClellan Arts Center to be a community shelter for the city of Longview. So this is just some of the other parts that we do. Next slide, please.
Do they still use that?
Yes, sir. We were able to secure them cots. We did a retrofit on their kitchen, did some work on their bathroom facilities, procured them equipment for cooling, and then also animal. The feds require post-Katrina that we need to shelter people and their animals. So we were able to do that. We also manage a lot of volunteers in the our umbrella is search and rescue, civil air patrol, and dives, the swiftwater rescue team for the county. That's directly managed by the sheriff's office, but we take care of all of their records reporting to the state and their reimbursement for any costs that they have. Our direct management teams are the drone team. We have a drone team that goes out and continues to fly search and rescue and emergency management missions. Our emergency communication assets, that's the comm van that you see down there and the volunteers that staff that. We have Emergency Operations Center and DEM volunteers that go out to do public outreach and help us when we have activations, and our resilient community volunteers. We have 8 volunteers that specifically go out and help train communities on how to be resilient, specifically with the emergency community response teams, the CERT program. Next slide.
Who in your
please.
organization,
I'm sorry?
who in your organization coordinates all this?
Well, it's shared between the 3 of us. So Lori handles she's the administrative section, so she handles all the paperwork and the communication. Larry is the big lead in the training, and I also assist with the training and the management of the team. So it's kind of divided between the 3 of us. The other big leg that we talked about is training and exercise. So we teach local responders ICS, specifically 300 and 400 classes. Those are the more advanced. We teach CERT. We've done CERT Train the Trainer. We work very extensively on bringing very specialized training to our responders. Specifically, we're able to do mass fatality response for rural communities to the coroner's office and to the chaplaincy. And we were actually able to use a lot of that training in the Nippon Dynawave packaging response. So we also work very hard to maintain our instructor certificate. Both Larry and I are state certified instructors to teach ICS, and I'm certified at the federal level. I've taught at the federal level for ICS management. We also work and have one of 8 Type 3 incident management teams that exist through Cowlitz County Department of Emergency Management. That is ran by the ex-director, Ernie Snobler is the lead for that. But that provides an incident management team that here in the county and a lot of expertise. And that team trains 4 times a year. They were activated during COVID, and then we used a large section of them in the Nippon Dynawave response. And we'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Next slide.
Scott, how often do you guys do mass fatality training?
Over the last 5 years, we've had 2 of those. That takes, we have to get on a list that comes out of the federal rural response. So we have to get on a waiting list and a request. So we've been lucky to get those trainings twice over the last 5 years. We try to do those at the request of the coroner's office. When they bring on new personnel or there's issues that have changed for them, that's when we bring that training in.
And I'm sure that over the last couple of months, the coroner's been pretty busy, so I'm sure some of that helped her.
Oh, that training was very, very helpful in for not only for the mass fatality, but we've also done specific training on family assistance centers. And that was a really big piece in our response for Nippon Dynawave that was really impactful to the community. So without that training, it would have been very significant impact.
Yeah,
We were
I
able to
think-
manage that.
I think Dana said that in that 1 month time period above and beyond the Nippon, there was like 26 calls that they had to go. on
Correct.
Above and beyond that.
So, yeah, their cycle was extremely high during that, and then you added all of that impact. And then that was also really critical. Not only did it affect those families of those, the 10 victims, it affected all of the families of all the people that worked there. We had people that were coming into the Family Assistance Center that had retired from Nippon Dynawave, that knew these people and were there. We had mental health counselors, and we had a lot of resources for them to help the community out. And we'll go into that more when we get into the Nippon Dynawave response. Great question, though. Go ahead to the next slide, please. Again, I'm trying to move real fast to, honor your guys' time. So we really push funding. We try to find funding through the Homeland Security grants. Again, we highlighted a couple of those grants, the emergency preparedness grants. So for our staffing right now, we have staffing through or funding through Homeland Security grant. I want to say for this year is $52,000 that pays for one of our positions. And then we're right at $90,000 for the other two positions. So all of our positions have some form of funding that comes through grant dollars. And then the rest of the dollars comes through the interlocal, which is the formula that's listed in the interlocal agreement, uses assessed evaluation and population. That's divided out. Currently, the county is at 52%-ish is what they carry. Then Longview's, of course, the next biggest, then Kelso, and then the other small cities. So any costs that you see that come through, understand that it's totally bared also by city of Longview and the other cities in the county for our people. Okay, next slide. So one of the other big pieces that we constantly work is the partnerships between local, state, and federal. We constantly manage those. One of the big lifts that we've recently had was the flooding event that occurred last December. We were able to secure funding for county public works. We were able to help secure for consolidating dike and improvement district. We were able to secure money for city of Longview. So we're the go-between between not only the state and the federals to the local level. So any grant opportunities that come out, we continue to work on that. Recently, the grant for the potential study of the Cowlitz River we work with all of those agencies hand in hand. We work with the school districts. We work with Lower Columbia College, where that is a huge piece that we connect all the way across the board. Next slide. So with Nippon Dynawave response specifically, with that, I just want to just kind of open. This is not an inclusive review. This is only from the point of emergency management. There's ongoing investigations from the Washington Department of Labor and Industries, along with the Chemical Safety Board, and additionally, Washington Department of Ecology and the Environmental Protection Agency are also doing internal investigations. So, and we're pending an after action report for this event. So just, really quickly, on May 26th, about 7:16 in the morning, They had the rupture of the tank. You see that in the picture. That's tank G that sits on Nippon Dynawave. They had approximately 900,000 gallons of the material released. It's white liquor. It's a caustic sodium hydroxide, and its operating temperature is at 200 degrees is what it was kept in the tank. So not only did it possess a chemical burn threat, it also a thermal burn threat to all the victims. When the tank released, it literally within 3 seconds had 900,000 gallons of that material raw on the ground. It was a tidal wave type release. The wave topped over the 2-story building that was next to it, pushed people and vehicles.
Went over the building?
Over the building. It topped that 2-story building next to it.
Wow.
How many seconds did you say?
It was like 3 seconds that tank was emptied. So there's a video that I have seen. I would love to share with you, but it's part of the investigative process that until that, when you see that video, you'll be really remarked about what happened. Out of that 900,000 gallons that were put onto the ground, about 160,000 went into the stormwater systems that exist on the plant site, which are connected to Consolidating Diking District, and that's what led to the impact to the city of Longview. About 3,500 gallons went into the Columbia River. The spill on the plant site covered approximately 12 acres of the plant site. And later on, when the impact into the Consolidating Diking District, they had approximately 2,900 fish kills in that, along with some local marine mammals on that. Next slide, please. To kind of understand the tank and the collapse, you can see again just another view of the G tank, and that was fairly early on when it was still venting. Our main focus was public alerting. So we immediately tied in with local fire and made sure that what we needed to do about public alerting. Fire early on was able to determine through air monitoring that the product was not airborne, that it actually went onto the ground, and short of the immediately impacted site, that we did not need to do mass evacuations or mass alerting. So our next step was our contact with the Washington State Emergency Management Division and start spinning up their resources. When that happens, a major incident this type, the state goes, raises the level and stands up their emergency operations center at the state level. We begin our plan activation, which was in the comprehensive emergency plan. Emergency support function 10 is hazmat. We began going through that plan activation. We went through the county has a separate mass casualty plan that we began to look at. We began working with Incident Command to stand up a joint information center. Literally, within 30 minutes of the accident, we had national news media that were calling us wanting information. So we knew that this was going to be a big lift for public information, also for the community at large, because everybody wants to know what's going on and the impact that it's going to have on them. So we assisted them in standing up a joint information center. One of our lead PIO, or public information officer, is Ashley Hellenberg from the Port of Longview. She came down, helped stood up the joint information center with the city of Longview, which took the lead in that. We were asked to stand up a family assistance center. So a family assistance center is specifically tasked with the help, coordination, and caring for the families that were immediately affected. We knew that early on in the incident, they had, so the initial dispatch was for 2 injured and 2 missing. That was the initial dispatch to 911. Well, obviously, you know that wasn't the case, and with that tidal wave that went throughout, it took them, quite a long time at the plant site to really get their fingers totally around how many employees were missing. Some of them were transported by private vehicle to the hospital. Some were transported by ambulance. So it wasn't, as you can guess, it was a very chaotic scene for quite a while for fire to get their fingers totally on and around the situation. In a picture later, I'll show you where the employees were standing, but it was kind of a blessing and a curse. It was a curse in the fact that you had a double shift. It was that shift change. So you had off-going shift and ongoing shift for Nippon standing in the courtyard doing their transition. So that increased the number of victims. But it was a blessing in that it was the same time that you had shift change at Longview Fire and Cowlitz 2 Fire and Rescue. So they had immediately ability to bring out hazmat response and an increased response almost instantaneously because you had both those shifts there. Otherwise, a hazmat response would have taken probably about an hour to call people in from home to be able to respond, to be able to engage in this incident. We worked on local coordination between all of the folks. We were the local representative on the state coordination call, which occurred daily to brief state and federal leaders on what was going on. We served as a local on-scene coordinator for Unified Command. After day 5, I was a representative that stood on that and represented Cowlitz County for the rest of the response until it transitioned out of the recovery phase, and then it started to shut down. We had situational unit leaders and safety assigned. So we have multiple volunteers out that were responded to that. So we had Ashley Helmberg from the PIO. We had Tim Karnofsky, who's on our incident management team from the Port of Longview. He assisted the safety. Tim Hislop is our LAPC chairperson and also serves on our incident management team. He was down there working on safety for the event. We had Kinsey Cromwell, who is a volunteer for us in our EOC volunteers. She served as a planning section chief for a majority of the response. Justin Hudek from County Public Works was there. He assisted and served on the safety team down there. We also had state representatives from emergency management, Chris Caprio and Annie Merritt, who we work with routinely, who were down there. Chris was directly assigned to me to assist with the Family Assistance Center and the communication with the state. And he was assigned to the incident to help the planning section with their resource requests. We, at the Family Assistance Center, we needed additional assistance for that. So we brought in Erica Catt, who was the emergency manager for Lewis County. She came down and helped run the Family Assistance Center with Mario Gambaro from the Cowlitz County Chaplaincy. They were the 2 leads for that. We also brought in professional mental health folks from the Cowlitz County Behavioral Health Unit. And we also had Columbia Wellness crisis response in there, along with coroner's office and connection with the union. We had Jessica Cosadar from Columbia County across the border, came in and helped with the Family Assistance Center. And then Kristen Young from the Cowlitz County Public Health was in and connected with that and helped with that response. And then one of our volunteers, Heidi Crabtree, also came in and helped with the Family Assistance Center. So that was a pretty big, heavy emotional lift, as you can imagine, for the first 4 days until the final recovery was made, having to continue to make phone calls to families to let them know that additional body was recovered because we didn't want them to hear that from anywhere else. And deal with the aftermath or the questions of, is that my loved one? We worked really hard to work with the families through the coroner's office to really manage expectations about the recovery and the condition of the bodies when they came out. That was pretty big emotional heavy lift for our people, and I believe that our organization did an awesome job. Our volunteers did an awesome job. It takes generally 12 to 24 hours to stand up a family assistance center. We had the family assistance center up and running in less than 2. And again, I want to highlight Chaplain Mario Gambaro. He had lots of history in that and really helped lead that organization moving forward. The last big piece I just want to mention on that, we're in the middle of trying to secure funding for the after action report. We're going through the process now, so hopefully we'll have that completed in the next couple of months, and then that identified and funding through it. And then I anticipate that taking 6 months to a year to be able to produce an after action report. Next slide, please. So just a relationship, so you kind of have an idea of the impact of this. The red arrow points to the G tank and how it sits in the courtyard at Nippon Dynawave. To the right of the picture is Westlake Chemical. And to the left of the picture is Security Mineral or Specialty Mineral. So in the breakup of Weyerhaeuser sold off lots of pieces of their operation. So this is how Nippon Dynawave sets. The bottom of the picture is the wastewater treatment. So Nippon provides wastewater treatment to the whole mill sites in there. They also provide steam power to parts of Weyerhaeuser and parts of NORPAC. So everything's really interconnected in this. Next picture, please. So that's where G tank kind of sets an overhead view of that. To the bottom right of the picture is all the steam generation plants. So you can see how connective and how close that G tank was to the steam generation. And that is critical to the continuation of NORPAC and to Weyerhaeuser, the mill itself. One of the impacts that they've had was when they shut down operations here, they had to shut down operations or curtail operations at Weyerhaeuser and at NORPAC because they needed the steam and the power that came out of this facility. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the picture, and can you shrink that down a little bit? It looks like it got overly large. This is the courtyard area. As you can see, the vehicles that were parked initially up against the edge of the tank, you can see how impactful it was that it literally picked those up like Hot Wheel cars and flung them across that courtyard, crushed them, overturned them. It blew out walls. It flooded all of the compartment space, all the work areas with the white liquor. And that was part of the reason of the delay in the response, is that once it went from a rescue to a recovery, the risk versus benefit models change, and we slow way down in the response because we don't want to hurt anybody else to recover bodies. So some of the bodies that recovered clearly had significant impact to them from the force of the release of the material. Some of them were had limbs separated. In one case, torso was severed. So that is, again, the initial response. This wasn't a long, prolonged experience. This was a very short, violent piece that occurred. One of the big key pieces that we ran across into the response and the recovery phase was this is a for-profit business operating on private property outside the jurisdictional boundaries of the city of Longview and Cowlitz 2 Fire and Rescue, and they're underneath contractual response obligations. So it got very sticky very early on with what the state could provide and who was going to pay for that response, because the state cannot give funds to a private for-profit business as a gift of public funds. So it got very unique in the response of who was going to pay and how they're going to pay. Next slide, please. The upper left picture, this was taken fairly early on. The water that you see the cars setting in is actually part of the white liquor that actually came out and produced lakes on the property. So that is where all the product went to. It went across parking lots and filled in massive areas. One of the other big issues, the red arrow in the bottom right picture is the black liquor tank. That black liquor tank actually had piping that was pulled out with the collapse of G tank. And that black liquor tank was also full of a highly caustic material. So that was the other reason why the response was a little bit slower, is they wanted to secure, make sure that bring in structural engineers to make sure that that tank would stay upright and not finish collapsing or going over. And then they needed to remove the product from that tank. And clearly with the damage to the piping, that was a little bit of a chore that the private contractor Republic came in and took care of. Next slide, please. One of the big impacts, the image that you see is the wellhead for the city of Longview. City of Longview gets their drinking water from the wellhead, and that is a aquifer map that shows the underground aquifer and where they get their water from. Clearly, you can see that it overlays where that the mill sites and also the diking district. So early on the end of day one, when we realized that the material actually had escaped the mill site and was present in the diking district ditches, this was a really big concern for the city of Longview, because they provide drinking water not only in the city of Longview, city of Kelso, but also Beacon Hill Water and Sewer District. So this could have had huge impacts and a really big change to the response. Next slide, please. Any questions on the Nippon response? The Nippon response was, again, very complex because not only were we dealing with local response, Cowlitz 2 Fire Rescue, City of Longview Fire, Consolidated Diking District number 1, City of Longview Public Works. We also were dealing with EPA at the federal level. We're dealing with State Department of Ecology. Both tribes are represented. So the Cowlitz Indian tribe and the Yakima Nation were also part of this response. They have fishing rights on the Columbia River, and this impacted the Columbia River, so they had access to it. And we were dealing with the Coast Guard and all the impacts or potential impacts to shipping on the Columbia River. So this was a very, very complex response to a very complex issue. And we were almost 30 some odd days on scene working with all of the Unified Command and with the property owner and the state.
I just want to say, Scott, to the people that I've talked to, kudos to you guys and everybody involved. The incident response time was minutes, and the number of agencies and the coordination that took place in the time frame that it took place in is actually pretty remarkable. I think you guys, the training obviously is proof that it's something that is necessary, and you guys were able to implement what you learned with all those other agencies acting the way that you did. Pretty impressive.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Again, I think our staff, again, for 3 of us and one, Larry Hembry, was on vacation during the time. Every time Larry leaves, we have a flood or an event. So with that piece, again, we're a force multiplier. We come in, I don't own fire trucks, I don't own response capability, but we're able to help force multiply and help out our local folks to be able to put their hands around and resolve any of the issues that we have coming forward. The next piece that I wanted to talk about or bring to you was kind of looking forward. There was some discussion about potential retirement within my department and whether or not to fill the position. So specifically, that emergency management coordinator, which is currently filled by Larry Hembry, and Larry's discussed retirement. That position specifically delivers our public education program. 90% of the public outreach, some of the stuff that you see that I handed out and laid on the desk, the upcoming event next month for emergency management awareness, that's Larry does all that work. Larry does coordinates and helps assist the Safe School Summit every single year. Larry's out teaching in schools. Larry does our community resilience. He does our public information and social media. We all take a rotation on call for public alert and warning. We have a duty officer available 24/7, 365. So the three of us split those duties up and carry cell phones and pagers ready to immediately push out public alert and warnings or come back in and start providing assistance in any disaster response. Larry's our lead in emergency management training and exercise. So he is our lead instructor at the state level for all 400 classes. For any of the other pieces and training that we supply in the county, he takes the lead on. He assists in the coordination of the emergency response organization. So he attends all of the fire chiefs meetings. He goes to when invited to the police chiefs and sheriff's meetings, he's connected to all of them, and we kind of serve both those roles. He serves as a member of the operations center, so we spin up. His specific role is logistical support. He also has training in planning section chief, and he's the big piece for that. He also assists me in development and management of all the plans. You saw the extensive list of plans and things that we're required to under law to produce and maintain. So he is a big piece in putting those plans together, and he assists also in grant management. So if we were to lose that position with attrition, if the decision was to cut that, we would cut 90% of our public outreach. That would disappear. Our community resilience programs, reaching out to Riderwood, Toutle, across the land would almost disappear. We just don't have the capacity to do that. It would put a very bigger load on both Lori and I to carry for the duty officer, and then for me to do program management and continue with the plans writing. And all these plans are not one and done plans. The comprehensive emergency plan is on a 5-year cycle. Some of them are on a 3-year cycle. So the plans are always consistently evolving and getting corrections done to them. I wish they were one and done, but that's not the case. That's a heavy lift. So if that is a decision that we need to make or that has to get made, again, understand that out of the cost of that position, currently about half the payroll comes from grants. So about half-ish, somewhere in that area, is paid for through grant process. And then half is bore by the county and half is bore by the cities. And again, we operate under the interlocal agreement, and the interlocal agreement has an advisory board section. So that would have to be taken to the advisory board to make that decision on reduction in force. Just as just situational awareness, at our heyday when Trojan was up and running, we had a staff of 8 that operated within emergency management. We've lost, with the shutdown of Trojan, 5 of those positions were folded that were directly funded by Trojan. So that's where we currently sat. Any questions about the emergency manager coordinator position?
Has Larry given you a date as to when he's going to retire?
I think he's kind of hesitating because he's heard rumors of the potential folding of the position. So we have moved forward with, it is a civil service position. We met with the Civil Service Commission. They've also authorized testing and for us to move forward with that. So we will continue as if the position's filled so we can be ready. If that position is maintained in the current budget, my ask to the commissioners would be to overhire by 2 months for that position, because there is a lot of training. You can see Larry does a lot of work and there's a lot of balls that are in the air juggling. So I would like to overhire. We have that in our unencumbered reserve. We wouldn't impact the general fund at all. We have worked really hard over decades to save our pennies to be able to be ready for days like this.
Well, I think
Although-
your department, Scott, is one of those I look at as an insurance policy. I don't like paying insurance premiums, but you never know how good your insurance is until you have to use it. You complain about making the payment, but then when you have to use the insurance, you're glad that it's there.
Well, one of the funny things that we've talked about, and I guess it's not funny, Cowlitz County is kind of called the Bermuda Triangle when it comes to disasters. We've had 2 head-on train collisions that existed almost in the exact same spot, almost 10 years apart from each other. Again, by the grace of God, they were not carrying hazardous materials or anything that would be hugely impactful. Protector Alpha ship fire, which is a grain ship down at the Port of Calamity that caught fire, and a well-managed security guard cut loose and actually swung out into the Columbia River, impacting the Columbia River for a while. We've had post Oso, we have the largest landslide with just over here in Kelso. We've had pipeline ruptures. We've had obviously Mount St. Helens, which is the longest ongoing natural disaster on U.S. soil. So it's not, clearly it's not if, it's when. And again, this is the Nippon Dino Wave was a prime example. We have flooding that occurs all the time. And a lot of our work is not in the response side, it is in the prevention and mitigation. It's the work with all of the other folks to try to get dredging done on the Cowlitz River. It's work with the state on mitigation grants, Lomar Drive, a lot of those, grant dollars and those work come through our department and we help lift that. The flood plan, a lot of the planning we do is trying to identify those issues and mitigate them the most that we can. And that is the part that you never get to see, that is not, that's out in front of the public. That's the hard work every single day in and day out. Next slide, please. Thank you. So one of the pieces that we have talked to Sean, and we were going to bring in a budget amendment. There was some question about it, which was the upgrade of the Emergency Operations Center. So the picture that you see sitting in front of you is the current configuration of our Emergency Operations Center. So this is the place where we all come together in emergency. We use this space for training, for meeting space, and it's used quite a bit. Next slide, please. So the ask was to use or reallocate. We have money in an unencumbered reserve. We're asking for $100,000 to be shifted for this project. I have Jake here from IT. He's been working on this project, and this has been a project that we've had in probably in excess of 10 years that we've been saving dollars for and working on to put this together. So some of the impacts you can see in the slide on the right-hand slide are 2 smart boards. Those are our primary communication, audio visual communication that exists in there. Those are about 4 years past their replacement cycle. We've been continuing to run those way past them as long as they continue to run, but we're now experiencing problems with them. The picture on the left is one of the displays in the Emergency Operations Center. It is a TV. It is that old, it's excess of 15 years, and it needs to be replaced. Next slide, please. The picture on the right is LCD projectors. Technology has changed. We used to run with just TVs and LCD projectors across the room. That is really old technology, and current technology, we can push them into video monitors and be able to control a lot of different inputs into them. And then the picture on the left is another TV replacement. Next slide, please. So that project, we initially did some research on it. We were guesstimating the price tag for the IT replacement, which is the screens, the smart boards. We're using basically laptop cameras strung across the landscape, and speakers that would replace all of that technology was about $90,000. We put in about a 10% unanticipated impact to that. And then there was going to be about 10,000 furniture supplies and a printer replacement. So we're looking to, again, transfer 100,000 out of our unencumbered reserve over into our budget to be able to accomplish that. And if you have any specific IT questions, again, I've got Jake here, who's been the lead from IT in this process.
Scott, can you explain the unencumbered reserve fund, where the money comes from that you saved that for?
Sure. We develop our budget every single year with our anticipated costs. That is from those costs, we separate out any grant dollars from that has a anticipated expenditure for the for the department. Then that is put into a formula, and that's divided out between the signers to the interlocal agreement. Then that is our budget for the next year. At the end of the year, if we have not expended any of those dollars, because we're an enterprise fund, and Sean might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, those dollars, because they're an enterprise fund, go into an unencumbered reserve. And the DEM is ran by a advisory board from all the cities in the county. I've been told by my predecessors that several decades ago that the county and the cities said that whatever dollars that are not expended roll over into this encumbered reserve for equipment replacement, for disaster response, anything that we need to do. The direction, and I believe that is still the direction from my discussion, is that the county and the cities do not want us to come mid-year or mid-budget cycle with our hand out and saying we need an additional $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to operate because we've had this response, or this is broken down, or we need to replace this piece of equipment. So that is how we've operated. We've built this fund. We're extremely penny pinching, and we save every thin dime that we possibly can because we understand that that goes into that fund, and that fund then helps us replace equipment when we need it. Or Nippon was a unique response because it was a private property for-profit business. So whatever costs that get incurred eventually will be passed back to that business through a billing cycle. If this was a Mount St. Helens response and we needed to stand up and run our EOC for 3, 4, 5 weeks, my overtime costs would exceed my budget. My staffing in that would exceed that. Now, eventually, we would bill and get funding back from the federal government. Currently, Forest Service billing cycle is 4 to 5 years. So we, the county, would have to set on those dollars for 4 to 5 years before we were able to see money coming out of the feds. So again, cities and the county don't want me coming back mid-cycle saying, I need dollars to continue to operate. That's the wrong time for us to be operating under times of critical stress. So this is why we built that unencumbered reserve, to be able to manage those type of situations and to replace equipment. Clearly, IT costs, you guys know, you heard that today, you're talking millions of dollars on licensing and IT costs. We're trying to drive those costs way down and manage what we can and continue to use past our life cycle at times, our IT equipment to try to be very frugal with our dollars.
So outside of the approval of this board, do you have to get the approval of the advisory board, the interlocal advisory board?
The advisory board has granted authority to spend that unencumbered reserve at the director's focus. So if we need to replace equipment, we need to do response, that is fine. The issue is if any budget cycle has to come back once the county approves their budget, I've got to go to the advisory board, present that budget to the advisory board and our plan for next year, what we're going to do.
I just wanted to add in there, excuse me, on ending fund balance, as Scott said, that is the unspent funds on the on the fund. We see that on every fund we have. Because this one does do billings, it can be used to reduce the rate as well, similar to other ones we've done. IT this year is another example of reducing the rates to the participating agencies.
So again, that's one option that Sean and I have talked about and have considered is the impacts to the organizations of using that money. One of the issues, again, is that money belongs not only to the county, but also belongs to the cities. So the advisory board would have to approve using those dollars to reduce costs. And that is absolutely one option that we have to do. But again, like you commented earlier, that is the insurance policy if nothing bad happens in the county or to us. So that would then necessitate, it's not the correct word, but if an event happened on the landscape, that I would be coming back not only to you, but also to the cities to let you know what the impact would be to the budget and to have those dollars opened up for us to be able to operate. If equipment broke, whatever occurs, I'm back in front of you asking for that replacement versus this model that the cities and your predecessors have put in place to fund Department of Emergency Management. The last slide was the comprehensive emergency plan. You guys have that in front of you. It's a non-legislative plan. There's nothing in there that enacts new laws or new requirements. It's basically how we as a county are going to respond and the cities are going to respond to an event within our county. This plan is on a 5-year replacement cycle. We were able to extend that by a couple of years. So this has been a long time work. We've had a private contractor in looking at it. We've worked diligently with the state to put the plan together. And what you see in front of you or for a request for signature tomorrow is the plan that has been to the state, has been approved by the State Emergency Management Division. And right now it just requires signatures to enact the plan. And just to let you know, we're already working on the rewrite that's due in 5 years. So this is a never-ending plan that continues to cycle.
My question, I remember we were going to talk about that, but because I was out last week, I read in there that it talks about, for example, the Nippon issue. Can we make amendments to that plan prior to that 5-year based on findings that we go through? That was the question that I was going to ask you about
It's a
that.
living document and those can change. So the plan format is you have a main base plan and then there's what's called emergency support functions. So in the emergency support functions, you have like firefighting, law enforcement, public health. So we work with all our partners in that. If anything changes in that, we would make changes to that plan and then republish that plan to all the plan holders. So it is a living and breathing document. The 5-year cycle is when it has to go to the state and the state review that plan and authorize that plan at the state level or accept that plan at the state level.
Do you foresee any changes with the investigation that we're going to make?
The after action, I think, is going to be telling for us. You know, it's hard to be in the middle of it and to see those issues. So that's why I've pushed and recommended that we have an outside contractor come in and perform an after action so we can identify where our strengths and weaknesses are and identify those and then start to solve those or move them to our, you know, potential in our hazard mitigation plan. So try to look for funding dollars or for federal dollars to pay for some of that action.
How much is the plan grown from the last time?
It's fairly consistent. This last cycle, the state changed their formatting. So we had a big formatting change from the state. It is a massive plan. I totally
Yeah,
understand what you're
But
saying.
it's a lot of it's repeat. It's like the same stuff, but for climber or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. We worked really hard to try to reduce that and close that footprint. Part of it is the federal requirements and the state requirements that the individual cities and the county have to kind of have their own pieces, and then
Right.
the emergency support functions. So really, the the main plan is kind of the general overall how we're going to do it. It's the emergency support functions that really, the mass care, the mass transit, those are the ones that we're going to pull out and really work off of. In the Nippon Dynawave, we pulled emergency support function 10, which was hazmat, and that was the one that we worked off of and relied off of.
Sean, there's no negative impact to the general fund with this transfer?
Can you answer that question again for me, please?
There's no negative impact to the general fund with this transfer. There's not going to be any domino effects to anything because it's an unencumbered reserve fund.
Sure. The negative to the general fund would be that it does pay 58% of the cost of DEM, and that could be used to reduce those costs in the future or currently.
Say that one more time.
The ending fund balance could be used to reduce the cost on the general fund.
Okay, so that money could be used to reduce. Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's the only downside from my point of view.
Mhm.
How much is sitting in there right now?
We're sitting on about 500, somewhere right in there.
Okay.
Yeah, 5.5 maybe, about a year's worth.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's unreasonable that you try and set something aside because you know technology is going to change over time. But yeah, I do understand it's almost, you could use those for cost reductions. But we face the same thing with 911, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the other piece. For every dollar that potentially is saved to the impact of the county, really, you're only saving about 52 cents, 50 some cents of that dollar actually directly comes back to the counties. The rest go back to
Yeah.
the cities.
And then needed to weigh in, what if we know the technology is getting old, well, at some point in time, it just quits, and so then you're paying for it anyway.
Yeah, well, and that's the piece, the insurance policy of how do we do that?
Yeah.
And I can honestly say, I don't know, it has never been done where the county wants to do a reduction in the, refunding out of that unencumbered reserve. I don't know what the cities and what their response would be. And I don't believe I don't even know if there's a voting piece in that, interlocal. So I don't think this has ever been addressed. This has never happened in the history of having to come back and pull money back out. So
Yeah, probably true.
this would be kind of uncharted territory. And again, the county needs to do what the county does. Sean and I have talked about it. My only caution to Sean was that whatever you do, that you make sure all of the cities are on board with that decision, because, about half of that dollars is theirs, and how they've chosen to allocate those dollars is going to change. So again, that is my only, county needs to do what the county needs to do. We'll,
Is this something that comes up when you're doing budget? We're just being made aware so we know when you bring it up that where we're at here?
I think it's going to depend on timing. If Scott's looking to do it this year, or if he's looking to do it in 2027, and that's going to be the distinguishing factor on that.
Okay.
So that's generally, we prepare a standard county budget that goes into the county cycle. We meet with Sean, all of those pieces are put together. And then whatever that dollar amount in that process, then I'm supposed to meet in August. I pushed it back a little bit with the advisory board because we're still in the middle of trying to figure out what we're going to do on the county level.
Okay.
And then go meet with them and advise them of what their share costs are going to be, and we've tried to keep that fairly flat. And then what we're going to do next year.
Well, I think that, not in particular to this situation, but one of the things that this does bring up is something that we should evaluate, you know, when we have these funds that have accumulated this large amount of money that's just sitting there. When we're in the situation that we're in, I think we should probably evaluate how that money is being dispersed to those organizations that have this large sum of money just sitting there, so that it's not just sidelined and it's something that we can use throughout the year. So.
Right, we try to be cautious in what we maintain in that fund. We tried to live at about $300,000 in emergency response funds, and that leaves us about 200 in technology replacement or any unanticipated costs. That is lived in that fund. So Sean and I have talked about that, about possibly shifting that into a professional services line. So it's more easily seen what that line is or what the intended purpose of that line is versus just setting in an unencumbered reserve. We do take whatever interest that rolls off of that, and that comes back in as a revenue line, and that reduces, again, that total of whatever the cost. So that's factored into that funding formula in those costs.
Okay.
So just so I'm real clear, this isn't a decision we're making right now. We're hearing how you'd like to put your budget together. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay, so when we see it, we'll know what's going on.
Right, and
I
that's-
got you.
So we're looking for this for a 2027 item.
So we would like to expend it in 2026. I met with Sean and we talked about getting on I'm blanking on the word.
A budget amendment.
Budget amendment, to get the budget amendment for this current budget amendment that went through. There were some questions on it, so we pulled it off that budget amendment to
Okay.
hold it. Once the board has granted authorization to do that, I assume that needs to occur in a regular public meeting, then that would be captured in the next budget amendment, correct?
I believe that's going to be October 13th is our next scheduled one.
Okay. So you're just trying to educate us here, so we.
Well, and that was the goal because there's
Yeah.
several questions about that
Perfect.
coming up on that budget amendment. So I just want to
No.
answer any questions for
No.
the commissioners or do that.
Appreciate that.
And the board can act on that at any time. It doesn't need to be within that budget amendment. That just, they can grant authorization to expend, or does it need to be within that? Maybe this is an off line.
Yeah. So, the board can give authorization to move forward on this at any point in time. For the official appropriation to expend would be through the budget amendment, but once we get head nods from the boards, we can make sure that happens.
So the sooner that the board authorizes that, we can get IT poised, ready to go and make that happen.
So the other entities are already on board with you doing it. You've already had that conversation with them.
We have not had that specific conversation with them, but the previous discussions that we've had with them is that any replacement within our EOC that needs to occur, as long as it's coming out of that unencumbered reserve and not impacting them directly, that it's up to the director to move that forward, to make those decisions.
Okay.
We just have to physically bring it to you because it's within the budget of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally don't have any problem with it. I think it's smart to try and set stuff aside for that, even though you don't technically call it a IT upgrade or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But at least you've made the effort to not just find anything you could spend everything you had on and put some away. So I
And that's.
give some props for that.
I give all of the credit to my predecessor, Ernie Schnabler. Ernie was a very frugal individual and very wisely so, because he knew that, in times of plenty, there'll be times of famine too, and understanding that and being very respectful and cognitive of the impacts that we have to the cities, because coming to you or coming to them mid-budget cycle is not, me coming to Sean you know, in May or April saying I need a bucket of money is very problematic for everybody. So that's the end of my presentation. If there's any questions or
Thanks.
anything you need. I believe, Purvi and I were talking earlier that the comprehensive emergency plan is on tomorrow's agenda for signature. Once you sign it, then it will, let me back up a little bit. That has already been to the prosecuting attorney, civil division. They've reviewed it, given their stamp of approval. So once you sign it, then I need to take it to all the cities and have them sign off on it, and then I can publish the plan.
Okay.
So that's on your agenda tomorrow for signature. Sorry to overload you all in one morning, but if there's any questions or concerns, we're willing to answer them.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where is it on here tomorrow, Purvi?
Updated today, so there should be.
Oh, so there'll be another sheet, okay. Hey, anything else, gentlemen?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up, did you guys get that meeting on the transit meeting on Wednesday? That's over at Longview? The Board of Commissioners is supposed to be there? I don't know whose board that is.
The one this Wednesday?
Yeah.
That's me.
That's you?
That-
Okay.
That's me.
So you're going to that one?
Yep.
Okay, good. It was sent to me too, so I'm like, I wanted to ask who that was to make sure we were covered.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, anything else? All good? Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.